All right, folks. Game number 4. This could be the deciding factor. We could have an ace match. It all depends on how this one goes down. Spawning in the lower central portion of the map, he currently trails the series. It's the blue Terran player, Yoda Prime.
The top right as the red Terran player, it's Jjakji.
All right, so I think it needs to be said, like, Jjakji won that game, but that had to have been like the messiest win I've ever seen. Like, the first, like the amount of scrappy drops that went on at the same time, the amount of times like that bounced back where like he was ahead but he couldn't quite kill Yoda. I mean, that final drop even just barely kind of cinched it. I felt.
Yeah, that's well, you see that drop didn't do so well, but when I was looking at Jjakji's supply, and it was still up by like 20, 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the biggest thing about that game was, well, a lot of things actually, but production, really. Jjakji had a lot of production. Yoda simply didn't. Yoda scanned Jjakji's main, and I was like, why would he scan the main and not say like the third? You know, because usually when you're about to die, the Terran's always like, well, do you at least have a third? Maybe if you don't, I can come back in this game. But no, I scanned the main, so he must have been looking towards like, you know, how much production do you have? Like, how rich are you based on how much are you producing?
Yeah. It's I just feel like that's the case with a lot of these matchups too, where you just a lot of that sort of behind the scenes stuff catches up on you really quick. But speaking of behind the scenes stuff, guys, just really quick, we didn't actually have notifications on, so I actually missed this earlier. But big shout out to Kitty the Neko. This guy he somehow first off he got his girlfriend into StarCraft too. Like what? Can we give this guy like a big round of applause? But just sub to the channel as well. So Kitty the Neko, thank you very much, man. Of course, a lot of times too, even if I have sub notifications or donation notifications on, when we're casting a game and it gets hectic, I'm not looking at that other monitor.
I do wonder if this game's gonna get really hectic. It's mega round. It's in the common positions that just cause whatever to happen in TVT.
Yeah.
Just drops everywhere.
Well, I like what Jjakji's done here with the supply dip at the front. We've talked about this a little bit in the series so far, but not a lot of emphasis on it because it hasn't come down to that point where you've got that 1-1 push with the Hellions. But I believe, again, I'm trying to recall, I think it was Jjakji Yoda, where Yoda got caught off guard even with that wall up because Jjakji got to elevator everything up to the main. I mean, we talked a lot about it during the group stage. We should probably definitely bring it up again. We're like, you know, Yoda is a good player. There's no question about this. But Jjakji's TVT lately has just been, like, great. Not okay or pretty good, but, like, great. And results speak for themselves, too. If you guys haven't seen DreamHack, I mean, he took out some fantastic Terran players over there. And for Yoda's sake, like, it's, again, that rare scenario where you come into a series and you're like, is this guy really the underdog? Like, for real?
Well, we're gonna have merry-go-round without medevacs. Oh no, doesn't feel right. Yoda, well, I mean, it may get medevacs later on, but Yoda's not gonna get it anytime soon, and neither is Jjakji. Jjakji's gonna be going for a Banshee here. Not a bad choice. It's not nearly as like much of a committal. Like usually medevacs make things not a committal, right? In TVZ, if you do that medevac drop, you can get it out. The queens are probably not gonna snipe it. But in TVT, you almost always have a medevac or a Viking, so you're almost always gonna lose that medevac. And suddenly, what was like a build that was supposed to do pressure and then maybe get out with all 8 Marines, it just dies, and you're in a much worse position. Banshee goes in the mid game a lot smoother, even if there is a Viking. That's just based off of what we usually see on this map. It's usually like medevac versus medevac versus Viking. Someone dies in a really silly way, and it ends.
Well, Yoda's kind of gone for that opener we had discussed before. You know, that scan comes down too with that Viking coming out first. So perfect. He sees the Banshee spawn. So this Viking defense is going to be great. If he had rushed out the medevac, he might have taken a little bit of damage from Jjakji, but you know, between one Viking, several Marines, even a turret going down, this should be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Sorry about that.
The reason that Banshee's go into the mid game a little bit nicer is that, well, you can do a lot of stuff with them. Like they can go back home and defend and still be somewhat worthwhile to do so. They can, of course, find holes in the natural. Maybe the missile turret wasn't quite done, but Yoda was actually pretty on top of that. I like that actually a lot from Yoda. Putting that missile down before the command center's put down, so worth it. The Banshee always seems to hit just as soon as you try and put the missile down. Let's start down to the natural. Like, damn it.
Well, chases the Banshee away for Jjakji. She doesn't get much down, but he also doesn't lose it, which is quite nice.
Yeah, look at this double expand. I like this.
I think this is I do like this, but this is something where you do get a little concerned, like, will this hurt him more than help him? Will this be a scenario where this third CC was too big of an investment early on? Because, I mean, Yoda is starting to move out for those drops. Jjakji's not going to be in immediate danger from this, but I am worried about that Hellion count, as it is quite high. Could just run up through that natural base.
Yeah. The Banshee's going to park itself over there. You could definitely use a bunker, I would say, as well.
Where did that go?
It's the middle of the map.
Oh, actually, that's kind of cool if it's gonna. I mean, that is the path a Viking or a Banshee would take, but
no, the units.
We'll go off on the snipe that heli. Not too bad.
That's really cool. Cool spot,
he still just barely doesn't see this, by the way. So his Raven may get taken out for this. Auto turret's gonna need to come down by him a little bit of time. All right. Actually, the Marine's just gonna go for the middle lines instead. That's not a bad alternative. He will get some SCV kills for this. This Hellions trying to get up through the. Two of them get here, but they're almost dead. Oh, CVs, please don't stack up. Not against these Hellions, not right now. Does pick up the medevac, so Jjakji will clean this, but not without taking SCV losses. However, the SCV losses, I feel, in this instance, not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It goes back to that third CC.
Right.
Oh, wait. He didn't do orbitals yet?
He's on autopilot.
Yeah.
He's pressing S instead of B's, you know. You know what it is. But that was a really nice cleanup. I mean, Yoda... He could have done a lot of damage, and, you know, Jjakji could have really regretted getting that third CC that fast, but I felt like unless it was, like, a dedicated push from Yoda with, like, tanks, it was, whatever he did was always gonna, like, equal out with a third CC, like, that type of pressure, that's exactly what happened. You know, it could have killed 10 SCVs or 15, but then Jjakji would have a fast third anyways, and it's just like, unless you're planning on killing him or containing him, he's gonna get away with it. But Yoda... you know, is just right behind him on the grid, has his own third command center almost halfway done. It's going to be hopefully a macro game. We see, like, it seems to be like 1 out of every 5 games of TVT, we finally see that macro game.
Yeah, the 1 out of every 5 as well tends to be that really cheesy, ridiculous Reaper opener that we have for game number 1, right? Like, still this Widow Mine. I'm loving the position of this thing. It's got a couple of kills. Yoda's going to know what's up, so Jjakji decides to reposition it, but it's going to get caught. Maybe? Maybe? Yeah.
Well, it's still gonna burn a scan. That's...
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 kills with a scan. This Widow Mine was probably the most cost-effective thing this game so far.
Yeah. Yoda's gonna push out. It looks like, I mean, with 2 tanks, couple of Marines, that's not a whole lot. Jjakji has 3 tanks. Okay, that's better than 2 tanks, Yoda. Just do watch. Yeah, I don't know what he's really...
Oh, thank God. I had
expecting.
After yesterday, like, even a half of a millisecond of lag is like, oh God, not again.
Yeah, I was a little worried too. You know, Yoda sees the tanks are siege up here. There's no way he's gonna get his like army past that, or even. It looks like his plan was to siege up on that ledge and drop onto it, but with 3 tanks, there's no way he's gonna do that. Now he doesn't even have vision. Just go home, Yoda. Just go home.
Pretty good position though on these tanks. It's gonna be hard for Jjakji to really push into this. Everything here scores just barely. It looks like Yoda with another scan will kill a depot.
Yeah, but he has to scan every single time he wants to do it. So, okay, supply depot. Okay, did some damage. My bad.
Supply depot down.
And then he just goes home. Alright, so that he lost 2 Vikings for a supply depot. So, not exactly worth it. He also let the 3rd just get down. He doesn't have anything scouting that.
Yeah, and he burned scans too, or you got Yoda to burn scans, but I think one of the things is for Yoda, there's no reason to really check for this 3rd. I mean, a 3rd command center that early is kind of unconventional. Like, right now is the time when that 3rd gets over. Yoda's command centers are a lot more standard and on time. Even arguably, quote-unquote, early, depending on how you pace a TVT normally, but this is a situation where Jjakji, despite how quickly this came out, I don't feel like he really got a big lead off of it. I mean, he's still down in workers. He took that small loss earlier. It's something where I really thought he would have been on a much higher CV count at this point.
Well, you know, you also have to consider that Yoda had the natural much faster, and that's why Jjakji did it in the first place. Because his was so much later, but... Maybe mech for Yoda? No, it's just like a tank.
Yeah, you can't really fight into the Marines. Lose that medevac right away, so half these Marines can't even get away. I do think he could have fought this, though. It's one... well, actually, no, it's Yoda with the upgrades. I take that back. Jjakji's only just now finishing.
Yeah, so he's going to be a little bit behind every single time. Yoda throws on a second factory. That's he's going to really up his tank production. We actually can talk about this, because it's been a while since it's been Marine tank versus Marine tank.
Yeah.
There are different styles in how people play it, like how hard they go into tanks. Like, Polt was someone who got up to like 3 factories fairly quickly and was very tank dependent. But then other players are actually pretty tank light. They prefer getting good concaves with Marines and dropping everywhere with Marines and being really annoying with Marines. But they're both going to go up to at least 2 factories. That's pretty much the standard. And they're both going to lean to their just be passive for, I guess, another couple minutes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the nature of TVT. You can't really, when you're bulking up yourself, risk losing like a medevac full of Marines getting sniped out by Vikings you didn't see or anything quite like that. So it makes sense that you kind of have this withdrawal coming into the middle of the game. But upgrades in the favor for Yoda once again. It's a scenario where the tank fire is going to obliterate Marines. There's no question about that. But if it comes down to Marines versus Marines, both players fighting away from the other's tanks, I mean, Yoda's going to win that fight quite handily. For now, at least, until Jjakji's armor kicks in.
He got the faster armory, so his +2 starts a little bit sooner, and then I was waiting for to see if he would get the +1 on the tanks, which he does. Certainly a useful upgrade. We usually see them go up to +1, maybe +2, rarely +3, although some people do prefer it.
Yeah. It's definitely something where if you're playing mech, you'll see those upgrades coming hammered hard. But for bio players, you've got so much you have to spend already. You can't afford that 3rd level of upgrades. But again, it's Marine tank versus Marine tank, so there's a little bit more leeway.
But the tanks, right? Like some people actually get +3 for their tanks in Marine tank versus Marine tank.
Yeah.
Like a big committal to the tank fire. But this is a good concave for both players, actually. And they're both just gonna, That left side looked awfully scary for Yoda.
Jjakji takes the tank loss there. A little unfortunate. The Vikings, if they were on the front lines, could maybe snipe off the medevacs. But that's the whole point of medevacs at this point. You're just spotting for vision more than anything else.
Yeah. Jjakji, is he dealing with Vikings? Yeah, it's 3 Vikings versus 0. Yoda lost his in that one attack. That's right. Never reproduced them. So he will have air control. Yoda can't just send out a medevac like you usually do.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to try and drop Marines when there's this many waiting to shoot your medevac now. So, bit of a stalemate at the moment. Yoda perhaps the one with a bit of leeway. He could go split off to the right and perhaps try and circle up on Jjakji, but he's actually going to advance forward here. Not sure how I feel about this move. Adam, we'll see if this works out. Jjakji is really clumped and not spread, so he takes a lot of splash damage. Yoda's going to absolutely break this force and send Jjakji back home.
Luckily, Jjakji got away with some of his units, so he will just go home and try and hold out. Yoda...
That was such a ballsy move.
Supply. Yeah, but it was also really good, too. Jjakji was all balled up. He was in more of the choke than Yoda was, anyways. Like, not that much of a choke, but... And Yoda actually takes a 4th behind this as well. I mean, Jjakji is actually in a little bit of trouble here. Can he defend his 3rd? He's not even trying.
This is a bunker.
There is that.
Yeah, he's got that much going for him. This is a huge drop that gonna get over that cliff really quickly. With the tanks being positioned like this, he might just be better off pulling. He knows this too, so he's just gonna evacuate the base. Probably the best case scenario, but still might lose the command center if he's not careful. He's gotta get the Marines in there. Spam repairing it with the SCVs and the mules.
Yep. You can just take the other 3rd, really. He has a sensor tower on that 3rd anyways. It would probably be nicer. Pretty safe.
Yeah, I mean, he did take this one because he was trying to avoid the eyes of Yoda for so long after all. He didn't want to see that.
The eyes of Yoda? That sounds very Star Wars-y.
He didn't want Yoda to see him, I guess. I could say it more plainly if you prefer.
It's a very Rico way to say it. Just, it's nice. Yoda actually did catch up in upgrades, despite having that little bit later of an armory. Maybe I got them swapped. I don't know. Either way, he's going to have +3 ahead of his opponent. He also was investing into the +2 vehicle weapons, so his tanks are going to be just a little bit stronger.
Oh, Jjakji might get sandwiched here in the middle of the map. He does have watch tower control, so he sees this coming, decides to back away. Pretty smart choice, because it's not a fight he can really take right now. The army supply is really not that different, although it looks very different when you actually look at the 2 different clumps of army. And a lot of that comes down to the actual unit supply right now, Yoda having a big tank lead. Not a couple, but like a big tank lead.
By 5. And tanks, they're going to make the army look a lot bigger. But a Doom drop maybe... Okay, there it goes.
Could have loaded up a lot more than this medevac.
I don't know if maybe he just didn't mean to. I don't think he meant to. The one thing that you can do if you're Doom dropped is you can try and break it, which is hard as tanks are in pretty fortified positions, or you can counterattack. And if you have just enough tanks to defend, you'll win the game.
I'm flabbergasted. Yoda didn't see this coming. That Marine definitely saw at least 5 of the medevacs, but this position behind the mineral lines might actually not work out for Jjakji. The tanks aren't really that well protected. It's not like you're fighting against Zerglings after all, but he's going to be able to take down those upgrades. Kills the +3 for Yoda. Really
nice.
That's a really nice, that's a really nice Gex. But still, he's going to take a pretty decent fight. He can't really pick up the Marines, but the tanks.
On both sides, they both did the exact same thing.
I know all of her moves. Give me advantage. Oh, he flies the medevacs over this though. Jjakji getting out alive. These are so expensive and not worth losing for nothing.
What are you doing?
Hold on.
Well,
This guy's paying attention over here towards the third. He'll take this base out of Yoda. Tank's in a pretty good spot, but Yoda did take a fourth, so this isn't that devastating of a blow. Definitely not worth losing every single medevac for. Like, oh my god, that wasn't a small loss for Jjakji. That was a huge deal. It's 0 medevacs to 12.
Yes, that's absolutely
Oh
true.
my
But he got the
God.
upgrades, he got the SCVs. Yoda's down to 25 SCVs, and now Josh is going to have 3 upgrades ahead of his opponent because he's also getting +2 down there.
But you gotta wonder just how worth it that's gonna be. I mean, Yoda is gonna have to rebuild the engineering base into the armory. It's gonna take a long time to get those upgrades going again, but medevacs trump +1, I feel. If you've got medevacs healing your marines, it doesn't matter if they're down in upgrades, they're gonna win that fight.
Chat, Yoda doesn't feel confident to push that army though. So the reinforcements here should be enough to deal with this counterattack.
He could just snipe off the command center if he wants to. Goes for the repair. Jjakji is going to try and hold his best. These are not quite in range for this.
Just barely enough, and Jjakji does have to go home. But you know, his medevac count. Wait, hold on. Okay, still only at 3. He hasn't really been producing them non-stop. All right.
And that's that takes away not only the healing factor to the army, and that's cool and everything, but there's no more drop reel potential. You don't drop one medevac 24 minutes of the game and expect to do massive damage.
Yeah, an evacuation.
Yeah.
Something that's be very important. Sometimes you take bad fights with tank versus tank, but you can at least get the Marines out with the medevacs. He does start production up again. Of course, he was a little strapped for cash, having to repair that at a CC. He is lifting. Wait a minute. Yeah, he is lifting the command center in the main to go to the 3rd. Or the 4th, rather. The old 3rd, I guess you could say. Oh, but a doom drop for Yoda. Oh no.
Jjakji can't
that's
pick
even
up to
better
respond
doom
to
drop.
this. I mean, he has to actually walk around to respond to this, and that's going to hurt so much. He stims the Marines once, so he comes into the fight down in health.
Oh, but his Sim City is actually more helpful than Yoda's was. The CC being already gone is definitely also a
but
help.
the tanks are choked at the top of the ramp. That one
Oh, that
scumbag
does suck.
siege tank sieged up the wrong spot.
Oh, the 3rd's gonna get siege upon as well. I didn't notice that.
From the high ground too, no less. When does that ever happen? Jjakji's already transferring the main over to the 3rd base, so he'll try and keep his economy strong behind this because he's losing a lot of production, and I think more importantly, that's supply. He's now supply blocked in a very bad way.
Well, hold on now. He's losing units, Rifkin. He won't be supply blocked for long.
Yeah, Yoda is helping him out. He says, alright, I took away your supply depots, now let me help you get some supply back, I guess. Jjakji could die for a counterattack, and I mean, quite frankly, it would be effective, but that comes down to, like, borderline base trade status. You know, can Yoda actually break what Jjakji has at home?
It's so silly. Jjakji... Okay, this production did die, but he's barely mining anyways, so it seems like that's okay. But since he had so little in the main to begin with, it's like... I don't know. I feel like if you sieged up Yoda's main, Yoda would be, like, so dead. There's so much here. And, of course, the orbital's still here. But Jjakji, like, kind of just like, okay, you got my main. Like, oh, okay. I was more bummed about getting the 3rd having to lift off.
Scans still going all over the place. Nuts. Looking for each other's vision. We got like a Venn diagram, actually, a very perfect Venn diagram going on in this game too, with the sensor towers. Like, that's actually a thing of beauty. Like, that is almost geometrically perfect. Like, oh my god. Anyways, nerdness aside, and he's gonna take a nice stim here. Again, 3-3 versus 2-2. The Marine should win the Marine fight, but it's those tanks. There's so many of them getting flanked from the left side. Jjakji is gonna fall. Yoda will take the game, giving us an ace match, tied up now 2-2.